What is up, Las Vegas? We're here bright and early. You guys probably aren't listening to this early, but it is almost 10 a.m. I love it, though. Now, since the nightclub's been closed, your boy is fucking loving these morning shifts. So we'll get this started. Also, just some notes. I'm looking at you at YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe. That YouTube channel is getting popping now. I've had over 111 hours listened over the last 30 days since we started promoting it. So if you guys like watching, hop into that and make sure you're subscribed to Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon is now in the game. So if you guys like Amazon and you don't like to pay for Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and Spotify, make sure that you hop onto this. And so as for the show today, I have an entrepreneur who is a co-founder of a popular college business that a lot of you guys probably are aware of. It's called JusCollege, which was one of the top, or now is the top collegiate travel company. And recently, 2 years ago, it was acquired for $25 million in April 2018. So this is going to be a great journey of entrepreneurship, trials, and tribulations. So without further ado, Mr. Bo Thede.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Oh man, once somebody hit me up to have you on the show, it's like absolutely. JusCollege is very prominent in Vegas, and I think your guys' headquarters out here too, right?
Correct. Headquarters at the time before the acquisition were in Vegas. Now, I guess by the company we were acquired by, you consider their headquarters in London.
Interesting. Yeah, Vegas is like literally probably the top place to go to as far as travels. And as we were talking before this, when Omni was open and every time they're like, all right, JusCollege is coming in, I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be a long freaking night. Long night.
That's what happens when you travel fresh, newly 21-year-olds
to
Vegas.
Dude, you get that. You combine that with like their formals and just like a lot of them are paying with daddy and mom's money. And then other ones, it's like, it's either going to be a very easy time when I had the club where it's like, all right, they're using, their card that their parents are paying for it. Or they're scrambling, trying to put money together last second. And I'm just like, oh God, this is going to be rough. And it's going to be, the table gets knocked over like 3 times throughout the night. People are spilling all over me. I'm just like, oh my God, what did I do to deserve this?
Yeah, I've seen it all. I've seen it all when you deal with 18 to 22-year-olds for 10 years.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just start right at the top. Obviously, being JusCollege, you have to have some sort of inspiration from college. But let's go a little bit before that. Let's go to high school Bo. What was his mindset? What were the important values in your life back then?
Sports, girls, and freedom. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Wasn't the most studious type. Found a way to get through school, whatever it took. Didn't really study for tests. Just focused pretty much on sports and enjoying my life and getting the grades to be good enough to get to a decent university. So that was kind of my lifestyle, and I was kind of hard-headed and stubborn and figured out I would find my way in life at some point, and that was kind of high school Bo.
Where are you from? What city and state?
So I'm from the Bay Area, West Peninsula, about 20 minutes north of San Jose and 45 minutes south of San Francisco.
Dude, so many Californians end up in Vegas somehow, whether they come here for college or their business ends up coming out here.
Well, and it's gaining traction even more now with how California's turned out recently.
Dude, there's a mass exodus happening right now in Cali.
I know. When we moved here from San Francisco, I was kind of against moving to Vegas because I had this stigma. That was 7 or 8 years ago, and now I love it, and I don't think I'm leaving.
Yeah, it's once you get here and you taste just the 24/7 nature and that just the variety. It's just a melting pot of not only culture but also businesses are starting to meld their way in here on the outskirts of the town.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So after high school, where did you end up going to college?
I went to Boulder, so University of Colorado Boulder.
Huge Broncos fan, so shout out.
All right. I don't know about that though. After living in Colorado for 4 years, you started developing a hate against the Colorado teams. Being from the Bay Area, Giants, Niners fan. Yeah.
Oh, pain in the ass. Were you part of any organizations while you were there? Like obviously starting a collegiate travel company, I feel like there has to be some sort of inspiration or some sort of involvement in college to make you just want to gather dozens and hundreds of college kids together to go on events.
So I think I was part of the ski and snowboard organization, which was weird. I was not in Greek life, and my life post-college, that's all it was. So you can ask me anything about Greek life now, and I'm an expert. But at the time, people would call me a G'd. Goddamn independent.
Yeah, goddamn independent.
But Boulder was one of those places that the Greeks associated with the non-Greeks, so it was pretty easy. But I guess how I got my inspiration is what you're asking. I think the jobs I took on from high school to college and kind of letting my network skills and marketing skills come to fruition, I saw an opportunity. And that's something that I take pride in is if an opportunity presents itself, you jump all over it if it matches your skill sets. Because we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And so that's what I honed in on was my strengths, was being able to socialize with people, get people interested in certain products. And my sophomore year, I was in a public speaking class, and I guess I met somebody in that class that previously started an online food ordering business his freshman year, the year before. Saw what he was doing. I thought it was very unique, especially being in Boulder, where it was very popular before marijuana started becoming legal, and by culture, okay. And so I started thinking, hey, this guy has an amazing idea, because students don't want to get off their ass, get on the phone to order their food. So he had this online food ordering business catered to the students, approached him and said, hey, I can help grow your business. And so he hired me to run the marketing, and we 3x'd every single year since then.
Wow. And so this is before even Uber Eats and Postmates.
Correct.
And all these food ordering app services.
Correct.
So it's probably just a website then?
Yeah, it was just a website. So Grubhub came on pretty heavily about 2 years after that. But yeah, it was just a generic website you went to and ordered from local restaurants that were giving discounts to college students.
I can't fucking beat that.
Yeah, it was great.
Just cater to the college community. You just understand even though there's a lot of immaturity, there's a lot of money that flows in there. And a lot of the college community is it's very accepting. It's very welcoming and very opening, because I think we're all just trying to find ourselves at that time in our life. So when you go on and find a business partner and you go down that road, I think it's easier to get customers, because you're like, oh, I know Bo, right. And then word spreads so fast in college, so fast. You don't even need social platforms for that to grow.
It's all word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth. What was the company called?
It was called HungryBuffs.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it was great.
How long did that last for?
So they're still around. I obviously haven't been involved for 10 years now or so. But I know they're still around. They were run by a guy named Danny Rowland. They were super popular. I'm not sure how things are now with Postmates and Uber Eats, but still up and running.
The one thing I don't like about Postmates and Uber Eats is that it takes money away from the local businesses. And that's something that I see now, that a lot of local businesses post on like their Twitter account and their Instagram is like, hey, if you want to order from us, order directly from the business and not Uber Eats, because they take a larger commission out of it.
Exactly.
Fucking capitalism. Gotta love it. So after you graduated, and I just want to go to the beginning of the JusCollege.
Barely graduated.
This is right after graduation?
I got that paper, though. I did graduate. I had to take 7 classes my second semester of senior year. It was not too fun.
Oh, that sounds painful. Most I ever did was 5, and I was like, I'm never going to do this ever again.
Yeah, it was rough. That's because I chose to take some years off and didn't pass certain classes. And so my dad threatened me with, hey, I was lucky enough where he would pay for my college. And he's like, I'm not paying for another semester, so you better figure out a way.
You're on 4 years?
I was on 4 years.
Oh, wow. When did you get to Vegas?
Which is accomplishment at Boulder.
That is. Yeah, it's an accomplishment everywhere now.
Right?
I feel like I was 5.5. Most of my friends were around 5. Sometimes it gets even longer. Common. Yeah. Also, most of the people here in Vegas specifically, like maintain jobs throughout college. I'm sure it's other places as well. But when you do it in Vegas, you're maintaining a job usually on the strip. So you're like half your foot's already in the door to the real world. Whereas like, you know, in Colorado or something, you're just like working at Chipotle or like some sort of retail shop. But here you're like, do I even need college at this point? You're like,
And probably a lot of people are working late nights, which impacts how many courses you can take. And it's paying good money depending on what you're in. And you're like, do I need this education?
Mm-hmm. It's college is more of like a model. It's more of one of the guests I had on. Her name's Poonam Mathur. She's like a top influential woman, and she related college to like being like a mental gym. She's like, you go there, you train your mind for 4 to 6 years, and you prove to yourself that you can go through these courses and you can basically adapt to whatever information is in front of you, and you learn how to process and analyze it in different ways, because obviously everyone processes information differently, or we'd all be in the same spot nowadays.
I have a similar view on college. I viewed it as it was the time to grow up, figure out how to live on your own, function, you know, just learn social skills, get by, get the job done with courses, but at the same time, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's more of the social experience as well. And I was in Greek life, and I remember one of the fraternity presidents at one time, he gave this speech to me. I kind of like opened up my world, where we do this thing called Bro Retreat, where all the fraternity brothers, we go to Utah and we get a cabin and, you know, kind of learn. And he was doing this speech and he was talking about like, this isn't the real world. This college right now, me being your president, this isn't real. This is a time to practice. This is a time to build organization, learn skills. And if you can translate this after college, that's where you're going to find success. So he's like, don't take this as seriously as you guys need to. Just focus on you and do this. And I was like, wow.
Yep.
That's so true.
Accurate. It's all about growth.
Your 19-year-old mind.
Right.
Just like, wait, what? Going and hitting on girls and going to this philanthropy and raising $500. Like that's not real. That's small. Kind of just broke down all those barriers. So yeah, it's fun. So you barely graduated college, or you barely made it past college. How did the culmination of founding JusCollege and with your partners as well, because I did know you were a co-founder?
So I guess how it all came about is I've always been, you know, whether my grades weren't the greatest or not, any job I took on, I was one of the best because of the work ethic that, you know, I got lucky enough to be born with. And so I was always in this mindset, I'll find my way, I'll find my own path. I'm social enough. I have a sales skill. Whenever I graduate college, there will be some place for me to go. And me being, you know, young and stubborn enough, and I'd say a little bit naive, I had this mindset, hey, I can go do anything I want. I can start a company and it's going to be successful tomorrow. I was very wrong. But luckily, I was lucky enough to be young enough and right after college when I didn't have too many responsibilities to take a chance. And so basically how this all happened is in between my junior and senior year, I was interning in San Diego at Northwestern Mutual. And one of my friends from high school was a promoter in LA who had dropped out of LMU, Andrew Citores, and he was running a very successful business. We got together, randomly went up and visited him, told him what I was doing with marketing for HungryBuffs, and kind of a light clicked. And he was like, hey, we should potentially do something together. I like what you're doing. I have other friends that are doing similar, you know, college businesses, cater around Greek apparel, so on and so forth. And we were all from the same area in the Bay Area. So over Thanksgiving, we got together over burgers and beers, and we're just hanging out. And finally, you know, it came up in our common, thought process between all of us is we don't want to go in the real world. How do we stay in college forever? And then we looked at what everyone else was doing. We're like, why don't we combine everything we're doing and create a company catered around college students? And so that's when the idea kind of came up, but it was more just over beers and in passing. And then I get a call about a month later from Andrew, who was our CEO, another co-founder, said, let's do this. I have a name, JusCollege. I think we can put all of us together, put some great minds together, and develop a business plan that is going to be wanted across college universities across the country. And so that's how it started. And then the day, basically 2 weeks after I graduated, I was driving to move to LA to start the business.
JusCollege is such a perfect name. And for those listening, there's no T in it. It's JusColleg. It's perfect. It's right on par with how our generation just likes to take vowels and letters out of common words and perfect it. It's hilarious. So I'm curious, as you said that he's a co-founder, or he was your co-founder, and you guys named him CEO. Was that a decision that was made mutually by both of you? Did you guys kind of like maybe write out your skill sets and par from there? What was the decision making into the positions in the beginning?
So he was a previous entrepreneur. He was kind of the ringleader, the guy that had the initial idea, brought the team together. The team was originally 8 co-founders.
Okay.
And it dwindled down rather quickly in a couple months span, 6 month span, where the other 6 decided to leave because it's difficult starting a business and, people need to make money. And so they left, and then it ended up being just us 2. And over the course of a couple of years, making a bunch of mistakes, when we repivoted to in like 2012, 2013, he's got the skill set of CEO. I have the skill set of sales, expansion, and marketing. And so that's how it kind of got divided up.
That's good. That's good that you guys could come to that common place, because you see that's something that stifles a lot of businesses, is the ego clash that happens where both people want to be CEOs, even though they know that one person kind of excels in this area. And so, you have to put your egos aside to build something that's very successful.
Very true.
So that's very awesome. And as you said that you guys had to repivot, what was the first, I guess, business model compared to when you had to pivot?
So when we started the business, the idea was we wanted to basically gather all of our products, what our buddies were doing, and create this one-stop shop for college students where they could access discounts on anything they would use frequently over the year, all meshed in a social media platform. And so at the time, when I was in college, I joined Facebook when you had to have an EDU email. So it was very private. You shared things, you partying, doing certain things, and you didn't have any repercussions. And then all of a sudden, Facebook opened up, and parents and grandparents were joining, and people were starting to delete pictures of them smoking weed. And it changed the dynamic of Facebook. And so originally we're like, look, we want to bring back the college-only social media network where students can share freely and not be worried about future career opportunities. They can share, they can do what 18 to 22-year-olds do, all mixed in with spring break trips, rent textbooks, Greek apparel, order food online from surrounding restaurants. And that was our original idea when we started in 2010. And it was pretty interesting, being young, we made some mistakes. We spent a lot of money in certain areas we shouldn't. We basically ran down to $0 in the bank account. Got lucky enough to raise a decent, a small amount of money to get us back on our feet.
Where'd you guys raise those funds from?
Family and friends originally. Okay. Ran out of it because we were spending money on all these events. We were throwing massive concerts. Before Dylan Francis was anything, we threw a huge show with Diplo in LA. And Dylan Francis came for free before he had a name. So that's kind of what we were doing, is we tried this EDU only tour to promote and market our brand. Some shows went extremely well, some went poorly, and we basically ran out of money because we spent all this marketing before our website was ready. And then we got back on track and pivoted to a student travel only and ditched everything else it was either 2012 or 2013.
Smart. So once you made that pivot, what was your guys' first event after you realized, all right, this one-stop marketplace isn't going to work? We're probably going to have to hit it big right in the beginning, because pivoting is tough. It's something that you have to do, but that when the eyes are on you like that, a lot of people are either going to write you off immediately and they're like, this is never going to work. And so you almost have to rebuild your reputation all over again.
It's about finding the opportunity and recognizing there is an opportunity to be willing to leave something you've worked on because of the confidence you have in this newfound opportunity. And so how it basically all transpired is travel was the only thing that made us any sort of money. So we were doing Vegas trips on holiday weekends. We were running shuttles for EDC that was gaining popularity. And then we started selling formals to the West Coast to go to Vegas. And it kind of just clicked. Online food ordering isn't making us any money. We're spending all this money. It's wasting money. Hey, let's ditch everything else. And from today forward, all we're going to do is go sell spring break trips and fraternity formals.
Yeah, you had to cut the fat.
Yes.
Oh man, that EDC trip. Actually, I want to mention that I went through your guys' YouTube page recently. I saw the first video on there was from I think it was EDC 11 or EDC 12.
Oh yeah.
And
shot an iPhone.
yeah, just like one song playing, which is like a few clips shot through the iPhone. It was giving me some good memories from
great.
that. I bet that must have been a shit show to manage.
Yes, it was not fun. Long nights, dealing with people coming back from the biggest rave in the world.
Yeah, especially when it was still in its infancy too. You know,
Right.
It was the first few years in Vegas, so I think they didn't really know what was going on either. You know, the stages were all over the place. People are all over the place. Like, they got shut down that one year. I bet that was probably fun to manage.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Yeah, 2012. I remember being there and the music turns off and I'm just looking around and Calvin's like, "Get back from the stage." And it's like, wait, what? This is like my first rave. It's like,
That was the wind year, right?
yeah, the wind year, 2012. I think it was like on a Saturday.
Yep.
And everyone's like gathered into this one area. It's like, this is kind of cool. This is also wild
Right.
as well.
Luckily, we didn't have that many travelers and shuttlers at that time. It would have been worse a couple of years later.
Did you guys get to indulge in some of the parties? You know, being young, fresh from college, you're like, I'm still, you know, you probably still know a lot of people in college, so you're around you're around all your consumers and all of your collegiate friends as well. So you guys get to go out and party a little bit as well?
Oh, we had our fun, but it took us a couple of years to get to the point where we were any bit of successful. And so by that time, a lot of our connections and friends had graduated, and so you're partying with a younger crowd. But yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun traveling and putting on the events we do.
That's when you had to put the business face on.
Exactly.
You're like, all right, now it's time to take control of this. 'Cause,
Right.
you know, it's tough. It's tough at times being
is
around
tough.
being around the vibe of the concerts. And, you know, I have some friends here who run different concert events as well, and they still go out and party, but it's like you could see from where they start getting too intoxicated and they're like, I have to stop because
Partying slowly dwindles year after year.
dwindles,
after year.
yeah. And then you kind of just become, oh man, it's like it kind of loses its glory
Yes.
behind it
Yes.
as well. That's something that I faced working at a nightclub for 5 years.
Becomes exhausting too.
It's exhausting, yeah, as well. And you're basically like, you become almost like a glorified babysitter
Yep.
at points, you know, and I'm sure you guys do the same as well with college students and all kinds of weird situations. That's probably arises as well.
There have been very many weird situations. Every single trip, there's always something that surprises you.
So, all right, cool. So you had this pivot. You started doing formals and Cabo trips and EDC traveling. Was there a moment where you're like, or like a specific event where you could go back and be like, that was your guys' turning point towards success of climbing the mountain, where you're like, all right, I think we're good, or I think we have something huge here that's going to be able to scale outwards?
It's really tough to pinpoint one. I think there were a couple key moments from selling our first fraternity formals from USC to Vegas to when I used to run the online food ordering. So for the restaurants, and that's all I did was sell to local restaurants around colleges for 2 years. And when Andrew approached me saying, we're going to pivot and you're going to completely change your day-to-day activities. And that's when I started selling spring break. I don't know if I mentioned this, but when we moved to Vegas, and I think potentially moving to Vegas and the whole 12 to 24 months after that happened was kind of where we saw the hockey stick take off.
Oh, the exponential growth.
Yes.
It's the fantasized thing that everyone talks about, especially with technology companies.
And, you know, when we bought Cabo Spring Break, only a couple years in, that was a big turning moment. Having access to Cabo like we did and jumping on the bandwagon of growth of Cabo which is now one of the most popular destinations for spring breakers and in Mexico in general.
I feel like Cabo spring break has been like the cliche spring break thing to do for colleges for decades, it seems like. So when you acquired that company, was that the company that was known for throwing all of the Cabo spring breaks and
Yes.
not like the one that's the international popularity?
So they ran it for 25 years. I was a former USC student. After running for 25 years, he was tired. He had a lot of previous opportunities to sell the company, but he wanted to sell to the right people that had the right vision. We got lucky enough where Andrew used to be a rep for him, got a pretty good deal out of it, and then ramped it up. Cabo used to only be popular west of Colorado. That was it. Everyone in the Midwest, the South and East Coast were going to Cancun or Puerto Vallarta. And at the time, we only had Cabo, and so it was basically we had to sell Cabo versus these other companies that were offering different destinations.
Success really is about timing.
Yep.
A lot of times, and your network as well. But that's so cool that you guys were able to buy that. And what was kind of the thought process once you went through acquiring a company? I feel like that has to give like a boost of morale as well as like you have to integrate new employees into this culture as well. So it's probably like the first culture shock because you're not hiring people. It's like an acqui-hire.
It was pretty small acquisition. And we were only 5 people big at the time. So the stars kind of just aligned. And some of their team ended up working full time, but a lot came on as consultants. And so we didn't have the full acquisition experience on taking on a full new team, as I've had now. But yeah, I would say we got pretty lucky.
That's cool. With only 5 employees, man. That's highly successful. And it's funny too, with spring break, it's funny that you say that because it was always like, all right, we going to Cabo or are we going to Havasu?
Right.
That's like the big two. And I think you guys like partly had the Havasu spring break too, right?
For a couple year stint. So SWAT used to own that destination, and SWAT's been around for a long time on the West Coast. And so we focused heavily on international. And then when SWAT moved to Rosarito, when we were still competitors, we jumped into Havasu.
Okay, that's what I thought. I went there in 2013, 14, and 15. And yeah.
3 back-to-back years.
Dude.
Good for you.
Havasu is I still say Havasu is one of the most wild things I've ever done. That is no holds barred down there, man. Oh my God. People punching holes in the walls. There's dirt bike going down the hallways. Like, I don't even know how they got that up there.
Well, UNLV got a pretty bad rap in Havasu from those couple of years you were involved.
Yeah, there's fire alarms being pulled. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of people passing out in cars. Like, I'm glad it was safe, but it's definitely that like crazy college, like iconic experience that you think of, like when you think of like the old movies of Animal House, it's like that, but out into.
You'll remember it forever.
Yeah, I think my body will remember it forever too.
And I think our generations too, spring break is that much bigger of a party and is something you look forward to because the MTV spring break days, when it was glorified. And something that was cool and hip at the time. And so you have these people that have grown up waiting for their spring break. And so they absolutely let loose and don't think of the consequences.
Interesting. So we're going to get a little bit off track here, but I'm curious on this question because I just thought of it right now. Now that college is going digital, do you guys have a fear that you may lose out on a lot of customers because they won't necessarily be on the campus? So like the recruiting is kind of severed in a certain way?
I think you just need to be dynamic. People aren't going to stop wanting to travel and party. These people are young. It's their first experience being on their own. Most people are going to want to party and travel and get out and see new things. And so, who knows how this digital COVID thing changes college forever? We have no idea, but as long as we're ready to be dynamic, adjust, our strategy, I think we'll be just fine. Because students are always going to need to be social and find ways to develop their inner circle and travel together.
That's very true. Are you guys open to taking on people that aren't in college but are in the same age group?
If they we don't have a requirement that you have to go to university to travel with us.
Yeah,
so we had people that were traveling with us in their late 20s for years that just wanted to come on our trip, take advantage of our deals, and we didn't exclude them.
Okay, that's smart, because I did read something, I think it was yesterday, that Harvard's enrollment dropped 20% because of everything that's going on. So I feel like you're going to see a lot more kids go down kind of the path that you've gone down in the entrepreneurial route, and maybe just skip out on college now because it's becoming a little bit more obsolete, where you could just go to YouTube University and figure everything out. And people are slowly starting to figure that out and unravel the financial Ponzi scheme that the collegiate campuses are offering, unfortunately.
These are large universities. Mm-hmm. They're not going to go down without a fight. They'll figure out ways to be dynamic, like I said, and appeal to people to still come. But yeah, I mean, information is at your fingertips now. And so you do have those people that may not think it's worth it, especially as our generations get older. You know, parents may not want to send their kids to college. They may think it's a waste of money, which, you know, everyone has their own opinion. I'm in the mindset that if you're not an entrepreneur, you don't want to take a risk. You know, at 18 years old, you should go to college to grow up. Because when you're 22, I don't want you moving back into my house.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I don't think I would have been able to learn these social skills without college as well. And just being able to prime my mind to be like, okay, I have to sit down and learn this for a few days and kind of gain, you know, that confidence in yourself. I think that was one of the biggest confidence builders out there. Because if you start a business at 18, I guarantee 99.9% of the people are not going to succeed right off the bat. Mm-hmm. And it's going to take a shot to you. And when you're young and your ego's still big, you know, it could put you down for a little while.
Yeah, and it all depends on, you know, what companies' needs are too. Do you need to have a degree? It's not as important as it used to be. I still think it's relatively important because it shows someone can get the job done. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how this all pans out.
Yeah, I think Google, Facebook, and a few of the other tech companies, they don't even require degrees at this point anymore. It's all about the skill set. Mm-hmm. And the only ones that really required degrees, which you would think were businesses, but that was something that I learned working on the strip, was all of my managers were just previous employees of the same position that I was working in. So I was like, I learned that at a young age. I was like, oh, business degrees aren't really as useful as you would think they were.
Right.
I used to always make the joke that I was born with a business degree because I was Jewish. I was like, I'm just going to learn it on my own. So then I went and studied kinesiology instead. And, you know, didn't even go into that field as well. But I learned that the networking opportunities in college, I think, are just going to be vastly superior than the educational opportunities, unless you're in more of a hard science, like chemistry and physics. And
well, even you got to make mistakes in life to learn lessons, and not going to college, you may miss out on a lot of mistakes you would have made to grow up. And so that's what I would miss. You know, one day when I have kids, that I'm going to encourage them is go live on your own, make mistakes, learn from them, and don't repeat them. It's a little bit tougher to make mistakes if you're sitting on a couch watching a YouTube channel all day, getting your education. It's just a little bit different.
It is. Is there a glaring mistake that you could look back on in your life and think about how it almost kind of just brought the whole ship down pertaining to JusCollege? Was there like if you look back throughout the whole journey, I know you'd mentioned earlier that you guys almost went to zero in the bank account, but what would you say is the largest personal mistake you made within the company that, you know, you had to sit back and review everything that you'd done and move forward from there?
And to be honest, I don't have an answer.
Yeah.
Because I made I can look back, right? If you ask me my biggest regret in life, it was quitting basketball in high school.
Okay. How so?
Because I was a pretty damn good basketball player, but I'm a short white dude, 5'8", that doesn't pan out well in college basketball or the NBA. And so I let things get to my head. Was very good. I was the captain, and you know, the system I was in the high school I was in didn't let me run the ball. I was passing it down the big man, and I kind of just got over it. And I said, I'm out. I'm going to go play water polo because I want to play college sports, and I'm good at that. And to this day, I always regret it. However, if I didn't make that decision to quit basketball, who knows if I'd be living in Vegas, who knows if I would have started JusCollege. And kind of like how I've learned mentally is, look, don't look back on decisions you've made, mistakes, and harp on them and let it fester, right? Just recognize, hey, if I chose a different path, I'd probably be happier, and, just take that learning experience moving forward on your future decisions.
It's the correct mindset, because there's times where you could literally just go down in a downward spiral of like, oh, if I would have made this decision at 17, then I'd be here. If I had gone into this business major, what if I met this people? If I didn't randomly go to Starbucks and meet this girl who got me into this social networking scheme, where would I be now?
Everyone fucks up. It's good to fuck up. And so that's kind of the mindset. I'm always going to make mistakes. I'm going to make a mistake every single day. But as long as I look back and I don't repeat that mistake, I've learned.
Yep. What's the quote? Fail forward, fail often, fail fast.
Yep.
The Warren Buffett one.
Yep. It couldn't be more true.
Yeah. It's even more so today. Your life is ravid with failures. But you have to be a silver's linings kind of guy, especially in entrepreneurship. And that's something that I truly believe in, is like skill stacking. And that's something that you guys did with JusCollege, and you built everything and you learned. And we'll dive back into the story where we left off at Cabo. You acquired them in, you said 2013?
Around that time frame. I don't have the exact dates, but yeah, it was a couple years in.
I say that's a huge milestone for a company. What was the next sort of events that you expanded outwards outside of college? You had this college spring breakdown, you had the formals down, and you're doing travel to EDC.
So we started with Vegas. Then we started doing formals, focused heavily on that. Then we bought Cabo spring break so we could have a more diverse offering, because every student travel company that was in the space did one thing and one thing only. So you had your companies that only did spring break. You had your companies that only did Vegas, only did formals, so on and so forth. And we figured if we can be the company that does it all, we're going to develop stronger relationships. We can make less money on a college student. We can travel them more often. And in the long run, we can offer a much better price point that's appealing. And if we deliver on our product, students won't have to go to individual companies for each thing. They can just be our year-round customers. And so that's why we got into spring break. And then we started adding trips to appeal to the college student, as well as what competitors were offering in the market that was there. And that was kind of our mindset.
And I think you guys hit it right on the head as well, because you guys were growing right when music festivals were growing as well, right in the peak. So just events were just at the plethora, just popping up left and right. Every city has a festival. Every state has a mega festival. There's EDM festivals everywhere. And then people are expanding to, all right, EDM's overplayed. Now we're going to start going to the band ones and comedy festivals and all these different things. So again, the timing just played just to a tune to you guys as you guys were growing as well.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yeah, and I think the Greek life thing as well, because that's when TFM was becoming popular. That's a total frat move for those who didn't know. That used to be my hand Bible when I was in college. I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is right. This is right where I want to be. Right to be right as a douchebag.
That's okay.
Yeah, we all go through our growing phases. So once you started growing, you obviously had to start hiring more people. And, at this point, you're probably, 25, 20, 24, 26, somewhere in that area. What was that experience like where you had to start hiring, doubling or tripling your guys' current staff levels?
It was fun. It was very interesting because, I had never interviewed people before. Yep. But it was great. I think a lot of it came from referrals, which is important to build on your network, because the bigger network you have of close people you have, the wider your network is. And, I think we got a lot of our hires at that time and through the next couple of years through a lot of referrals. But it was interesting. I would go into interviews and I wouldn't have a playbook. I would just talk to the person and figure out, can this person engage in a conversation? Do they say the right things? Do they have the work ethic? Do I think they would be a great team member? And that's what I hired off of, is honestly just the vibe and the conversations we had. It wasn't, I never, I'd have a resume, but I would never look at it. So I went in just with a different mindset, and I think we got very lucky with the people we ended up hiring, on top of making sure they were happy and taken care of. And, that's one thing I think that helped accelerate our growth, is we had a pretty stellar team put together with people that busted their ass and worked very long hours to get us where we were.
Yeah, they have to see the vision that that foundational staff is, they're the one that's building the base of the pyramid.
Correct.
Moving forward. So I do like that you just had an honest conversation, because most of these people you hired are probably just graduated from college as well. Outside of maybe execs that probably come later down the road. But it's interesting. You're good. It's interesting interviewing people, because there is no formulated interview tactics. It's when you're younger and you go in for interviews, they're like, oh my God, they're going to ask me what's your favorite color and what does that mean to you? Or, put you in these weird, awkward question scenarios. And you're like, what is the point of that? I don't understand. I can do the job. Just talk to me like a person, tell me what I have to do. And you learn that skills are learned. You're not born with these great feats. Skills are acquired through practice. So it's just something that you have to kind of enunciate to everyone. I have the faith in you.
Right.
You're believing in it. And you're also creating probably some positions along the way, because you're the only ones doing this.
Right.
So there's no just manual for it. You're all right, I have to create a salesperson, a creative person, or whatever the case is.
Because we used to have to do everything ourselves. And so we learned those skill sets. And then I think it was a little bit easier to interview, because it's I've done this and this is why I'm hiring you, to take this off my plate. Are you ready for this? Are you ready to grind? And, I think we were confident enough in the culture we were building that if we have someone that has the right mindset, we can groom them to do anything, as long as they have proper motivation.
Was it tough to delegate tasks away? Because I've talked to a few founders, and it's not more so that they definitely want to have more time, but once you delegate tasks away, it's you've been doing it for so long, you have kind of this nostalgic tie to it as well, and there's a bunch of other emotions that kind of surround it.
Yes, I went through that phase for sure. Now, no. But it's tough, because when you're in control, you can control the whole process. You become very good at it. It's part of trusting somebody else to do it. At the time you're young and you're like, I don't think this person can do it as well as me. And so, you do hold on, or you oversight, you micromanage a little bit too much, but eventually the sooner you give it away, the quicker that person is going to learn, and the quicker they're going to excel. And they're probably going to be much better at it than you ever were, because you were stretched too thin. And so I would say I had a year or two where I was probably a pretty annoying boss, because I had my hands involved. And then finally I learned to let go.
Yeah, it's really tough at times. It's weird, because the most successful companies, they say that you have to take yourself out of the everyday process. The machine needs to be able to function on its own. And then you become more of the visionary. And it's weird, because you've been so hands-on your entire life, where you're now I'm leading the company by thoughts and ideals and motivation, and forming more into the leadership role, where, you have to speak to your staff all the time and start managing people, which is very difficult than just going out and doing an A to B task as well. Human emotions are wild. And that's something that I learned through my own entrepreneurial journey. Is the objective isn't hard. It's managing subjective emotions and people's lives where, a tragedy happens, or their cars broke down, or they're dealing with personal relationships at home, and they bring that to the workplace, where you're like, God, how do I deal with this?
Right. Right. And I think, another part of it is, this may be on a tangent, but it's because you care so much. When it's your baby and something you've worked so hard, you care so much. So it is hard to let go, because you're so passionate about driving something, and people are going to make mistakes, and you got to understand that and not harp on them.
The passion field.
Yep.
Interesting. So once you guys started expanding more and building more, where did the acquisition come in? Was there something that was there ever an offer before on the table? Were you approached by them? Kind of what was the whole thought process behind that and to putting the pen to paper?
So, I mean, we worked on it a long time. We had a lot of ups and downs. At the start, it was a lot of downs. We grinded, we worked. I mean, I can't tell you how many years I was busting out on average 90-hour work weeks. It was just the regular common. On vacations, I was working 12-hour days. My relationships at that time, with girlfriends at the time suffered because the business was my number one priority. And over time you grind for so long, and we were in such an interesting industry. There was a lot of competition. It got ugly. It was very choppy. And so, we had built up something pretty impressive, and, I don't know exactly what happened, but we got tired. We got exhausted because of the grind and how long it was and the ups and downs, the almost going out of business several times, having to ask people to not accept checks for months. So a good amount of UNLV grads that were our employees, the ones that were there early, we had to say, can you please not accept pay for 3 months? Trust us, we got you. And all of that got tiring. So basically a year or two before we actually got acquired, we started getting reached out to, had some conversations. Thank God we didn't take the deals. But we were highly considering them, but they never got to the point where it really got serious. And so we got in this mindset, hey, at some point we can exit. And then when those deals kind of fell through, we got motivated again. It was kind of like a refound energy. Some days you wake up, you're excited, you're motivated. Some days you just want to sit on the couch and do nothing. It's the same thing in business where you have your moments, whether it's months, whether it's years. And we had that moment where it was, all right, it's time to bust ass. We got something here. Let's keep going. And how it all happened is we somewhat got in the same space as the company that bought us, because we were doing music festivals, reselling music festival tickets to festivals like Imagine. And we did pretty well in the college space. And the CEO of Verve was out here for it was either a convention, something around the space. And Andrew was a speaker at the event. They randomly started talking, and we're talking about partnering up. A day later, they're in our office, and he just goes, we should buy you guys. So it came out of kind of nowhere, and then we started going through the process, and it took from the moment he told us we should buy you, it was Labor Day weekend of 2017, and we closed in April. So what is that? 8-9 months.
Yeah. Wow. That's the real professional nitty gritty negotiations that you hear of, and, when I looked you guys up, I saw that it was on TechCrunch, The Sale, and a bunch of these other business stocks and, technology websites. So that must be pretty cool, because that's like your stamp that, you made it. It's official. You've been acknowledged by the entire world that your company was deemed successful enough to, be acquired, and also to have dozens of reports written about it as well.
Yeah, it was a pretty surreal moment. That whole process, the celebration, it going down, the press we got. There was a lot of those aha moments, and having so much pride, and where you look back, you're like, hey, we did something pretty impressive. And so it was amazing.
That's awesome. And then, once you see the money, and, it's tough when you let go of something that you've been building for so long. All your time now has been compensated in terms of dollars and values, but then, you still go on and you work with them and whatever happens on there. But now you have some money and some freedom to go on and do other things, down the road.
Exactly.
What was that like now that you had, you're still working for the new company, but you have more time on your hands where, you're probably not working 90-hour weeks like you used to. What was that like, almost diving back into quote unquote like a normal world?
Uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's just it was different, right? When I sold the company, I was like, I'm never doing this again. Gosh, that was tiring. I don't think I'm ready for it. And then over time, over the last 2 years, I'm like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I wish I wasn't, but it's the only thing that will get me off my ass. So that's what's weird is with this additional time, you feel like you're not producing value to society. And so it's kind of an uncomfortable, anxious feeling where it's like, I'm not pushing something forward 90 hours a week. This is weird. It's not my company. You don't make the decisions anymore. And you're now an employee. So it's just completely different than having full control. But it's something I was ready for. When I sold the company, I knew immediately, this ain't my baby anymore. I have no say, no decisions. I'm now an employee. I'm going to do my job, put my head down, be a positive team member. And that's just what I'm going to do. Even if I agree with decisions, this is my new role. And I think over, the last 2 years, I've recognized, what gets me going. And I think that's important, for anyone listening to this, any young person, any old person, whoever it is, to find what gets them going. So some people, there's different motivations, different things that are important in their lives. But what I learned with me is I have a better work ethic than anyone I know if I care, if I'm passionate, and if I can see something moving forward. And so, that's why I feel like I'll be an entrepreneur the rest of my life, because I'll find those things. And, proving people wrong. Growing up, you're short. People don't think you're, athletic enough, proving people wrong. People saying you're never going to make it with your grades. My dad giving me shit. That's just kind of who I've been, was to prove people wrong and defy the odds. And so that's what gets me going too.
It's awesome. I love the entrepreneurial stories. It's amazing. It's something I preach, that we all have the same mindset and the common goals are usually the same. And I've noticed a lot of the driving motivational factors are similar to people telling you that you can't do it. You grew up in some sort of tough scenario. Competition's a big motivation as well. But the journey there is always so different. There's so many ups and downs, left and right, pauses, fear, life things that come in, new people come into your life, people are leaving your life all the time, and building different relationships. But the story is something that I always find so fascinating, because even after that sale, or once you move on to your next business, that energy is still there. Mm-hmm. It's still tenacious, and it still just fills you, and You're ready. It's you don't know what the next project's going to be, but you know that it's going to come at some point down the road. Exactly.
And so that, the one thing I preach to people is, if you have certain skill sets, your strengths and weaknesses, can you mix your strengths with something you're passionate about with an opportunity? And that's how I think people can be very successful. Because my strengths are probably much different than your strengths. Mm-hmm. My weaknesses are probably much different than your weaknesses. And then, finding ways to mesh all three of those, and you're going to do well, because it's not going to feel like work. And it's something you're good at.
That's key, is have it not feel like work. Yep. That's something that's plagued everyone in society, going through that 9-to-5 job where you're just banging your head against the wall, working 10 hours a day. And you're like, I don't feel like I have a purpose here. I don't feel like it. I wrote a paper recently, just a fun entrepreneurial paper on my website about, I call it the Not So Simple Guide to Designing One's Niche. And in this paper, I talk about how backwards society is, where when you're younger, people try to pitch to you to find what your purpose is. But purpose is so broad, it's so vague. It gives people a sense of existential crisis when you think about it. But I think at first we should be trying to discover what our niches are. Like you said, discover what your skill sets are, your strengths and weaknesses, and then find that area that you can squeeze yourself into, or even build one out in a sense where that's what you guys did. You became the one-stop shop essentially when you pivoted for travel. So you started small in a finite area, and then you grew outwards. And then you find your purpose along the way. Like, oh, my purpose is for all of these college students to find an easy and affordable way to go out and party, have fun, connect with each other as well. So it sounds like you've found your purpose, and now you know what your driving motivational factors are.
100%.
Yeah.
It's taking time though.
Yeah.
It's taking time. I was lucky enough after college developing something that I just by chance cared enough about that utilized my skill sets. But it's tough. Like it's not easy when I say what I just said, people think, God, that's so much more difficult than you make it sound. It is. And so, my only suggestion is keep searching and look out for those opportunities.
It's not easy.
As soon as an opportunity presents itself that fits your mold, you jump all over it. And, if you can take the risk and leave some things behind, go for it.
Yeah. In life, you have to go out there and take what you want. You can't sit back where people, the cliche term is like, oh, love is going to come find you or business is going to come find you. It's like, no, you have to go out there and you have to, in a capitalistic society, you got to go out there and build it. You got to put yourself in front of people.
Yes.
And there's so many different ways about it. There's an interesting quote that I read the other day by this guy named Anthony Pompliano. And he said that first-time founders focus on the product, but second-time founders focus on distribution.
Yep.
Do you understand it?
Yeah, I do.
You focus so much on like building a product, and even if you have a great product, you're like, all right, now I have to go out and market it.
Right.
And marketing sucks.
How do I get this out to the world? The product could be the greatest thing ever, but it doesn't get into people's hands and it falls flat on its face.
Yeah, and that's just like what you guys had with the marketplace. I'm no doubt in my mind it was probably a very successful product, but it just like the distribution methods weren't there.
Right.
And so then you went out and found distribution first, and then the product formed within itself. Mm-hmm. And that's something too with business models is that I don't know how your guys' the beginning came out, if you guys wrote like a reverse engineering plan or an outline or something like that. This is something that plagued me in the beginning is I tried to plan out what I wanted so far in advance that I kind of like boxed myself into this traditional method that isn't successful, but you need to give yourself like flexible freedom of expression for the business to go and grow because there's so much things that happen along the way.
Correct. Planning to a point is good. Over planning can potentially be detrimental. We wrote a business plan, we didn't use it. You can have a strict plan, but you need to be flexible and be able to, pivot in that plan depending on, what happens, whatever space you're in. And so that's what I think, we were very good at is we saw the opportunity, we were ready to be flexible. We may have made a decision and the next day we may have changed that decision because things happened. And that's something that we got very, very comfortable with as well as the rest of our team.
Why do you think that nobody else ever did something like JusCollege? Like when you think of it now, looking back retroactively, you're like, wow, this is such a simple idea. It's just like a global company that takes collegiate travel and puts them in events. It seems simple. It seems like an easy idea, but the organization is tougher. Why do you think that nobody else was able to replicate you guys' success?
I think talent was part of it. We had a pretty damn good team. I think we had the best team in the space. We had the best product. People had done it, but again, they stayed in their niche. We wanted to accomplish it all. And so, I think it was a combination of the team, price points. When you're cheaper for a college student and put on just as good of an event or product, or if not better product, they're going to stick with you. And then mastering the sales and rep structure and ambassador structure we built on college campuses. So we perfected it. And, over time it became the largest student travel company in North America. Because of all those pieces to the puzzle. You had the right team putting together everything on the back end, the front end, going out and selling. You had a product that delivered when the product didn't deliver, right? Nothing's ever perfect. You have unhappy customers. You address those unhappy customers to take care of them. You don't leave them hanging out to dry, which previous companies did because they're 18 to 22-year-olds. Yeah. We treated them like adults. We're like, if you're unhappy, let's address why you're unhappy and let's fix it. So we cared about that. So we had a pretty damn good reputation. And And I forgot what the third was. The grind. I think we were young enough where we had, probably more hours under our belt to be able to, where it was easier for us to work long hours, 7 days a week versus other people that have been in the space that are probably older, have children, they don't have as much time. So we were able to grind and do what was necessary to take market share.
It's very important that the energy is something that it's more prudent in you when you're younger, even though you think once you grow older, you're like, oh, I can have all this time, all this energy, but the physical, just the way that you age it's much tougher. It's much tougher. So it's cool that you can acknowledge that. And looking back on this whole experience, was there ever a favorite event for you that you ever threw together and just became out wildly successful that you could look back and be like, wow.
All of them.
All of them?
All of them. They're all different in their own ways. Some are big, some are small, but it's pretty cool to have put on experiences, where a good amount of percentage of your customers come back with those memories. You remember your Havasu, it wasn't with JusCollege, it was with SWAT, but those memories are pretty amazing. And if the company sucked, you would have remembered the company sucked and screwed you over instead of one of the most memorable trips of your life.
Yeah.
And so knowing, hey, we provided that for a long time for all these college students, that when they think of college, they're going to think back. They may not think of the JusCollege brand, but they're going to think back to Cabo spring break, to EDC, to that Memorial Day weekend in Vegas. So, that was pretty fulfilling.
That's exciting. Moving forward, is there any new trends that you see popping up within the collegiate party, I guess, experiences?
Well, it's tough because there's not really much going on right now. So, things have definitely changed over the years, but right now it's kind of like at a weird halt. So things will definitely be different, once this whole pandemic is over and mindset changes. It should be interesting to see how students migrate and what they start doing to continue being social.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a resurgence in the party scene, on a massive scale?
Yes.
That's something that a bunch of my coworkers talk about all the time.
When it comes back, it's going to be coming back in full force. People are, you have these 18 to 22 year olds that enjoy being on their own, making those decisions, making those mistakes, having fun with each other. And they've kind of been locked up a little bit. Granted, they're still finding their ways. They're handling things different than probably most demographics and age groups. But when they're allowed to gather in large groups and travel, everyone's going to have saved money, first of all, and they're going to be looking to get out for that first big normalized experience. So whatever that is, whether it's a spring break trip, massive music festival, a trip to Vegas to go to the nightclubs, it's going to come back big because students are itching to get out. And that's how it's been weird because a lot of the students have gone back to campus in the mindset, screw it, I'm going to get COVID. I'm still going to have my fun. And the same thing's going to happen when it's, screw it, I'm going to go enjoy my college years and find a way to go on this experience I've been so handicapped from for whatever it is, the last 6, 9 months, 12 months.
Yeah, that's the fearful part. I feel the same with Vegas as well, although Vegas is more surrounded with money and it's experiences too, but money is what's going to prevent some people from going. But I was talking with one of my coworkers and we're like, I feel like once everything comes back, man, it's going to be like year one when we opened up at Omnia. It's just everyone, like even the work staff is going to be going out all the time. Because everyone hasn't seen each other for 9 months to a year. So you have to rebuild those foundational relationship structures all over again because just the way that you remember somebody in this time, everyone has been going on and rebuilding different things, like I started this podcast and I'm down to, 50 episodes already. So my personality has shifted a lot and I've seen a bunch of other people do the same thing as well. So if we go back to that state, you want to go out and have fun, but you want to go remember this new person essentially in a sense. So I think there's going to be a massive wave. And I have to say, I do miss music festivals a lot.
Well, think about it. Think about, your friend, your peer groups, people that you've seen in your life, that may have not had access to make decisions, take risks, do things that maybe you were able to, right? So what I'm trying to speak of is like, if you had a helicopter parent type of mentality, right? You weren't able to do anything. And then when finally you were able to go out on your own, you went balls to the wall. The same thing's going to happen for travel, except it's not from your parents. I haven't been able to do anything, go anywhere, go to a festival. I haven't even been able to throw a massive party at my fraternity house. And once the handcuffs and taken off and the helicopter parent is gone of COVID, they're going to go balls to the wall.
I'm excited for that day for everybody. It's gonna be good for our city. It's gonna be good for everyone, because I think something that this coronavirus pandemic has emphasized is mental health, and like how much of a social creature humans really are. Just being locked away for that quarantine what was the quarantine in Vegas? It was 2 months almost.
Yeah.
People were going absolutely insane. And I know I've seen a lot of people probably didn't do as well. As, I was one of those people where I was like, I started picking up running outside. I was like, I just got to go do something. Like, I can't just be boxed in here all fucking day. This is wild. I never felt that much anxiety before.
I understand. Yeah. A lot of people have taken on new activities, found newfound loves for things. So, there's pros and cons of every situation. Yeah. The coronavirus, COVID pandemic sucks, right? But as a person, you got to look at the positives and the outcomes. And for you, it may have been running, doing certain things. You're now doing your podcast, right? I see things differently. And yeah, hey, this may have sucked for a bit, but guess what I got out of it? And so that's, something that I've learned through a bunch of stuff that's happened in my life is I've had a lot of shitty things happen, but there was a really positive outcome from it. So if you can focus on that, I think that does help people's mental health.
Yeah, as well. If we know something that's for certain, is that the pandemic will pass. Humanity will still be here. It's not going to kill off everyone. Humanity survived so many different pandemics, so many fucking wars and everything. You can't stop us. Worst case scenario, Elon Musk builds his rocket ship so we can get out of here and go to Mars when that time comes. But yeah,
trust the Musk.
Dude. I trust him, man. He's an internet troll, which I love even more. It's so funny that someone could be the 4th richest guy in the world and then just shit post on Twitter all day. It's
pretty funny.
So funny. He's the perfect role model for us. And I do believe that Elon Musk is going to end up being the richest person in the world because he's building 2 simultaneous billion-dollar companies. Especially, I don't think he'll ever take SpaceX public. But Tesla's just been on this massive ride. I don't know if you're into stocks or things like that. But
I am.
Yeah, you're a stock
Tesla's
trader?
a good one for me.
Yeah. Did you pick up day trading during this time, or you've always been involved with it?
Yeah, I don't day trade. I just invest into companies I believe in and let it ride. So I rarely sell my stocks. Everyone has their own strategy. I was taught to hold and hold and hold. And so when I invest my money, I pretend it's gone for 20, 30 years. It's turned out pretty well. Like Tesla, I invested in 2 or 3 years ago, and look what happened in the past 6 months.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm the same boat with cryptocurrencies. Like, I tried day trading on a few different occasions. After like a week, I'm like, dude, I can't handle this stress anymore. This is fucking painful. The one thing I've learned is I cannot go to bed with an open trade. An open trade is like where your money is accruing or devaluing at that same time. Like, I cannot have an open trade. I have so much anxiety. I wake up every 3 hours, like checking my phone. I'm like, this is not for me. This is not for the faint of soul.
Yeah. So I haven't found myself at that point, mainly because I've just developed that mindset. Look,
Smart.
Don't watch the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like today, Tesla's down after their battery announcement. Who cares? It's down. It'll eventually rebound.
It all goes up. So one thing one thing that you have to realize is important with trading financial assets is that there is a bottom floor, but there's no ceiling.
Right. So
there's literally infinite growth at some point, So that's cool that you look into that, because I'm not a stock trader. I like crypto because of, that it's free money. It's like a money. There's a different component to it. But these American companies aren't going away. If anything, we're going to get bigger, especially with like a return to localism. That's going to happen. And we're going to try to get off of our dependence of China and a bunch of these other markets. We'll see how frivolous that can be.
We shall see.
Yeah, we shall fucking see. But this has been a great conversation, man. I loved the journey. This was a really cool
We
journey.
appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I always have 2 questions
Okay.
on the way out. the first question is the year is 2030. What does the ecosystem of Bo Thede's life look like?
2030.
Yeah, 10 year outlook.
10 years from now.
Yeah.
I'll have kids. I'll be married. I'm engaged now.
Congrats.
I'll probably be living in Vegas, actually,
Hey.
which surprises me because I've always wanted to move to San Diego for years. And it's tough to get me out now, so I'll probably live in Vegas. And I think will have at least one company opportunity that, I'm focused on. And I think I'm going to continue living the way I do and try to travel as much as possible with my new family, and be able to do that and not be tied down.
Yeah, I respect that as well. I think, like we were just saying, once the floodgates are open, everyone's gonna be traveling everywhere. Mm-hmm. Backpacking trip, that's something I want to do. And last question is, what does Las Vegas mean to you?
Home.
Hey, as we heard before.
Right, I know.
Easy.
I don't think you could have talked to me 5 years ago and I would have told you you're crazy if I said Vegas makes me think home.
What's your favorite aspect of Vegas that gives it that home label for you?
It's got everything. It's got everything. It's really hard to pinpoint one thing, but the cost of living is way cheaper than California. The weather's pretty incredible. I would say 9 months of the year. The amount of entertainment around you, things to do. People come vacation here. It's one of their favorite vacation. You got golf, you got hiking. I just like the way it's laid out. In terms of the spacing, and also I think overall this may have been me being young when I first moved here, but it felt kind of like old Vegas where, it had that stripper mindset. This is what people do. And I think it's, better on top of more people have moved here, better people have moved here, companies have moved here, and it's felt less like the Strip and only the Strip that communities are building that are providing what I would want. Good people, not an insane amount of traffic, incredible restaurants, fun bars, local things, entertainment, so on and so forth. The only thing you're technically missing here is you don't have a beach, but pool is pretty much the same thing.
Encore Beach Club.
As long as you can, San Diego, LA is close. Encore Beach Club, that's true.
Yeah.
But I'm getting old, so I'm trying to stay away from those day clubs. I've been to enough day clubs and nightclubs with JusCollege in my life.
Like I've done enough for 3 lives.
Hey, you worked at Omnia, you get it, man.
Yeah.
Since I was 23 years old, I was in day clubs and nightclubs probably like 20 weekends a year for 7 years. It had its time where it was fun, and then it was like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, it's played its role 100%. Where can everyone get connected with you on social media, websites, anything like that?
So I actually deleted my Instagram app.
Okay.
I don't know, it's just easier for me not to watch it, which is interesting. Facebook is very easy to get me. LinkedIn. Anyone can email me. My contact information is pretty readily available. However they want to get in contact with me, I'm open.
Cool. Yeah, I'll tag the Facebook and the LinkedIn as well.
Perfect.
Interesting. I'm just going to make one pitch, get on Twitter at some point.
Get on Twitter.
Tell everyone that.
I know. I never, for some reason, it didn't work for me. My mind just doesn't work that way. So if someone ever wants to manage my social media accounts, fantastic. But, that's not one of my strengths.
There's opportunity out there, guys. You heard it here first. Bo, thank you again for coming on. This was awesome. An incredible JusCollege story. And now you're just starting your own life out.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next time.